My name is Karen Bork, and I'm a home missions pastor's wife from Caldwell, Idaho. My husband Rick pastors the Heritage Holiness Chapel, which is a part of the Southwest Conference of the Bible Methodist Church. Now, I have never done anything like this before, so I have hesitated greatly over it, and in fact, my first video was deleted as quickly as it was made. But I have been asked by several to share some things in a more public forum that I've shared with select individuals. And I am excited about sharing a little part of our story, but only in a way which will glorify God. So please keep that in mind as you watch. I want to talk to you today about a God who is trustworthy. And I'm going to try to divide this up into a few parts to make it easier to listen to and to watch. Now, our story here is ongoing. But the theme that God has chosen for us doesn't change, and it won't change, no matter how the story ends. First of all, I would like to tell you today what I have found, that God is trustworthy even when He takes us by surprise. Nearly 15 years ago, God called my husband to preach. Now, that in and of itself was a surprise because I had not married a preacher. And for whatever reason, I had never wanted to marry a preacher. I guess I was a little bit backwards and shy, and I just did not relish the idea of being that outgoing person, welcoming other people on Sunday morning and calling on people and all of the things that go along with being a pastor's wife. I just didn't feel like that was for me. And my husband came from a preacher's home, and he was very excited about being a faithful layperson. We had big plans, and I believe that our motives were good. We were going to try and make good money and support the church denomination in which we'd both been raised. We lived here in Idaho at the time, and we had just 2 small children. My husband had just accepted a large promotion within the company where he worked, where he actually still works. And we had sold our house here in preparation to move across the country. Now, time doesn't allow for all the details, but God had recently let us out of the church that we had attended all of our lives. This was another huge surprise, as to this point we had been fiercely loyal to the name over the door, and it was something we never thought would happen. We were both raised in that church, like I said, and we have utmost respect for our parents that raised us there and know that they were doing what they thought was best for us. And we're grateful for our heritage. But anyway, my husband had been asked to serve as the lead leader of a small group of us until we were able to call a pastor. And he was pretty adamant that this was just a temporary deal because we had plans. And they didn't include living in the area, let alone pastoring the church, or even lay pastoring it. As it turned out, it seemed that no one had this in their plans, or maybe God didn't have it in His plans, because call after call went out, and no one felt called to come and pastor us. So here we were, a small church with problems among us already, because we were all human. We had humans among us, so of course we had problems. And some of the problems would have stumped an experienced leader even. And many of us personally were facing difficult relationships with family and friends because of our break from the previous church. And while we were still kind of reeling from that and trying to find our place, other problems began to surface in our midst. And at a time when we needed to be united more than ever, we were being divided even further. And just honestly, my husband and I could not wait for that move that was coming. And we had plans to attend an established church in a new area, and we felt like this was just what our family needed, just what God had for us. And then 3 days before we were to fly out of town to shop for housing in a state far from all of this trouble, God did the most ridiculous thing. He called my husband to preach. And that included giving up that promotion and living here and working among these hurting people. But guess what? When God did that, we all of a sudden began to see people as not only precious in God's sight, but it was as if God lent us a pair of His glasses, and we were able to catch a little glimpse of how He viewed them as souls worth dying for. And I can still remember riding in the car with the evangelist who was there when my husband was called to preach one night after service, and how my husband just broke down and cried as he told the evangelist of, I never knew I could feel this way about people, about souls, about the love that God had given him for those people. And in spite of all of the mistakes that we made over the years, that is one thing that hasn't changed, and it's something that I maintain whenever someone says, well, ministry is hard, or I don't know how you do it. It isn't hard. All a ministry is loving people. Plain and simple. It's just loving people.